This video will show you how to replace the master cylinder on a Pontiac Grand Prix. This will be located along the driver's side of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Just a quick note about doing this job, you will want to have some clean .3 brake fluid and some parts cleaner. As far as the master cylinder is concerned, before we remove the cap, let's go ahead and clean around the area. I'm just going to use a clean rag for this, a quick wipe. We just want to make sure nothing makes its way inside the braking system. Take hold of the cap, turn it counterclockwise to remove it. A quick inspection. Looking at the cap, you can see exactly what type of fluid we will have to use. .3 brake fluid. We'll set that aside. Continuing on, we want to remove as much fluid from inside of the master cylinder reservoir as possible. Use a fluid extraction device. These can come in all different shapes and sizes. This is the one I'll be using. So as I look in this area, I can see that I do have a locking tab for this. I like to pry it away using a small pick. Once I've done that, I can pull that electrical connector out of place and of course a thorough inspection for corrosion. No corrosion there. Now after disconnecting the level sensor, we're on the other side of the master cylinder where we can see our 4 brake lines. Make sure you do not mix these up during the installation process. As you can see, mine are a little rusted. I'll use some penetrant. We do want to make sure nothing makes its way inside the braking system. Let's make sure we have a collection receptacle underneath the master cylinder area so we can collect and recycle all fluid as necessary. After applying our penetrant, we can continue on with a 13mm wrench. We're going to start removing each one of our 4 brake lines from the master cylinder. You can do this in any order you want. Just make sure you don't mix them up during the installation process. There's our first line. As you can see, fluid is coming out of this area. We have our collection receptacle under here. There we are. Let's move along to the other 2. Let's move along to the next. After removing each of the lines, we have to keep in mind there could still be brake fluid inside of the master cylinder as we continue on, but we're going to be focusing where the master cylinder connects onto the studs which are attached to our brake booster, located just behind it. We can see one over here on the driver's side. The second one is on the opposite side of the master cylinder. Let's use a 15mm to remove each one of these mounting nuts. And there's our first piece of hardware. Now for the second mounting nut, there isn't much room to get in with a socket, so I'm just going to be using a 15mm ratcheting wrench. Now let's hold on to the master cylinder. We'll carefully remove that final mounting nut, and we can remove the master cylinder from the area. We're sliding it away from the brake booster. There it is, friend. Now, before we install our master cylinder, there's a couple things that we have to do. Let's start by looking at the brake booster inside the engine compartment. Looking in this area, we need to confirm that nothing's rotted, weak, or damaged. You also want to make sure you don't see any brake fluid residue. If the master cylinder was leaking and fluid made its way inside of the brake booster, you're going to have to service that as well. Just a quick wipe here and a close inspection. This does look good. Now, a quick note about the installation of a master cylinder. It does need to be bench bled. It doesn't necessarily need to be done on a bench. You can do it in the vehicle. Now, for a good measure, I like to use high temperature lubricant in on this center driver here. When you step on your brake pedal, this presses out and presses against the master cylinder plunger. Now we're moving along to each of our 4 brake lines. Inspect the lines and the brake line fittings. For this, I'm using a clean rag with no detergents. Okay, so now it's time to install the master cylinder. Let's get this in place onto the booster. We're sliding it over each one of our 2 studs. After that, you can start on both of those mounting nuts and then bottom them out. Of course, the same on the other side. The torque for each one of these 2 mounting nuts will be 24 foot-pounds. I've got my torque wrench set to 24 foot-pounds as I mentioned. Just double check that. Now I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other side. Continuing on, it's time to start bench bleeding that master cylinder. You will want to have a bleed kit. In that kit, you want to try to find adapters that are the same size as the brake line fittings, so we can start carefully screwing them into the ports on the master cylinder itself. So now I have some plastic adapters. You can also use brake line fittings and form some brake lines if necessary. Essentially, we just need those adapters to screw into the ports on the master cylinder. Now I feel like I have it snugged up by hand. I'm going to continue on with my wrench. I want to make sure it is secured, but I do not want to cause any damage to anything. I'll be doing the same exact thing to each of my 4 ports. With each of the adapters installed into the master cylinder, we're continuing on with some tubes all the way up inside of the reservoir. We can remove the reservoir cap. We'll set that aside. Now, with the type of tubing that I'm using, I need to go from the bottom adapters down inside of the reservoir as I mentioned, but I also want to make sure that they do not lift up and out of the reservoir. Of course, that can make a mess, and it could also make it so we draw air back inside the master cylinder, which we definitely don't want to do. So with that said, I'm going to have a wire tie loosely around the master cylinder reservoir where the cap would be. Each one of these tubes, as I mentioned, will just go from that adapter all the way up inside the reservoir. Now here's where that wire tie comes in handy. I have a second wire tie. I'm going to put it through the first wire tie. And now I'm going to use that to hold all of the hoses together and inside of my master cylinder reservoir. I'm pressing the ends deep inside the reservoir, so once I do add fluid, the ends of the hoses will be under the fluid level. Keep in mind, we will have to remove this when we're done. Don't over tighten it. It can be a little bit of a hassle to remove these. So we have our brand new .3 brake fluid. Let's go ahead and top it off. There we are. As you can tell, I'm all the way up to the maximum area here. I do still have some space up along the top, but the tips of those hoses are definitely under the fluid level. Now I'm going to pause inside the engine compartment. I have to make my way inside of the passenger compartment. I'm going to be pumping the brake pedal nice and slow and steady. I'll be pressing it all the way down to the floor, slowly releasing it, and repeating the process several times. While I'm doing so, this part can be easiest if you have a second person. That second person can watch each one of the tubes. We want to see a steady flow of fluid making its way through here with no air bubbles. At the very beginning, more than likely, you're mostly going to be seeing air. Here we go, slow and steady. Once you feel as though you've removed as much air from inside the master cylinder as possible, we're going to have to take the hoses and lift them up and set them aside so we can install our master cylinder cover. So with that said, I'm just going to trim my wire tie so I can remove this one, but I'm leaving the wire tie holding all of my hoses together. Clearly there will be fluid inside of each of these hoses. Just keep that in mind. We still have our collection receptacle under this area, of course. I'll lift the lines up and out of position here and reinstall that cover just as I had mentioned. Now it's time to start installing our brake lines into the master cylinder. As I mentioned during the removal process, each one of these lines needs to go into the same specific port as where you had removed it from. Go ahead and remove the brake bleeding kit from one of the ports, and then we'll continue on with the line. Now keep in mind, as you remove this, fluid will be making its way out of the hoses and out of the master cylinder. We have our collection receptacle under this area at all times, as I have mentioned. Make sure that's nice and tight with my line wrench. Now, of course, I will want to clean this, but I'm just going to wait till the end. I still have 3 more lines to be installed, and the process will be the same. After you've tightened each one of the lines, just double check to make sure there is no movement from the lines, everything is properly installed. After that, pay attention up along the reservoir cap. We need to make sure that's fully installed, and we'll clean down any mess along this area. It's important to make sure you clean any brake fluid residue, especially from along where the lines are. When we're done this process, of course we need to double check for leaks in all of our mounting points. Now it's time for our level sensor electrical connector. That's on the passenger side of the master cylinder. We're going to line it up and we'll press it in and listen for a click. The locking tab faces rearward towards our brake booster. Now at this point, we're pausing under the hood. The next thing we have to do is make our way behind each one of the wheels. So you want to make sure you safely raise and support the vehicle and remove each of the wheels. We're going to be starting at the passenger side rear for our brake bleeding process. So now when we bleed the brakes, of course we have all the wheels off of the vehicle. So we're starting the brake bleed at the passenger side rear or the right rear. Once we've completed that, we're going to have to go to the left front caliper, the driver's side front. Continuing on from there, of course, we need to make sure that we top off the master cylinder. We can never run it dry. After we've topped off that master cylinder, we're going to the driver's side rear or the left rear, and then we'll be finishing at the right front or the passenger side front. Completing all of that, it's time to top off the master cylinder at the end one last time. We're at the passenger side rear caliper. This is where we're starting the brake bleeding process. If you have a bleeder screw cover, go ahead and remove that. Now we will have to open up our bleeder screw. To bleed the brakes, this is going to be easiest if you have a second person inside of the vehicle. That person inside the vehicle is going to pump the brake pedal approximately 3 to 5 times slowly and hold it on the last pump. They're going to let me know. At that point, I'm going to carefully open up my bleeder screw with a collection receptacle in this area. I'm going to be watching the fluid making its way out of the system. We have to repeat this process until we see only clean brake fluid making its way out. Go ahead and pump that brake pedal, please. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. You can release, thank you. Now, as you saw, I had only clean brake fluid making its way out of the hose. There was a couple small air bubbles, but that's just what gets trapped in this particular hose. I feel confident that I fully bled this brake. I have only clean brake fluid making its way out. At this point, I'm going to make sure I remove my tools, clean any mess, and we'll continue on to the next wheel. Now that we bled the passenger side rear, let's make our way to the driver's side front caliper. So we're at the driver's side front caliper. If you have a bleeder screw cover, go ahead and remove that. Now we're going to bleed this brake in the same way. Of course, I do have my 10mm wrench for my bleeder screw, and I also have my collection receptacle. Go ahead and pump up that brake pedal, please. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. All right, you can release. Now, as you saw, I had only clean brake fluid making its way out through the caliper, and definitely no air bubbles. I'm going to go ahead and clean up my mess here, and we'll make our way to the master cylinder next. Let's top it off with our brand new .3 or .4 brake fluid. Now that I've topped off the master cylinder after the first 2 calipers, you're going to go to the driver's side rear caliper. Bleed that caliper the same way that you already saw me bleed the passenger side rear. After cleaning that, go to the passenger side front. Bleed the front caliper the same way you saw me bleed the driver's side front caliper. After completing both of those, everything's nice and clean. You're making your way back up to the master cylinder to top it off one last time.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.